Hey guys, I wasn't going to make this video today. I know I always say that. I really do. But I think that's because sometimes the feelings that surround a particular topic are so overwhelming. I feel like I shouldn't do it. But then that feeling leads me to do it anyway because I feel like something needs to be dismantled. And this video is going to be on Renee Good. So I'm sure that at least some of you guys can understand why it would be a hard video to make. Although I've heard some people that speak about death and a woman getting shot in the face with such ease that maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm too sentimental, right? What really changed my mind in deciding to speak about what happened to Renee Good, I think it was last Wednesday. She was the woman who was in Minneapolis, I believe, that got shot in the face a few times by ICE as she was in the way, they say, of them executing their rights, they say. And I was going to leave it at that. I was not going to speak about this. But then, I saw J.D. Vance and Caroline Leavitt speaking. I think it was in a White House press conference. And then I saw Kristi Noem. And then I thought about Pam Bondi. And then I heard a few things from Megyn Kelly. And I just said, I got to say something. So basically, what I noticed was that after Renee's death, there were many people that thought it was wrong, but there were also many people that were justifying what I feel is an unnecessary death. It was an unnecessary death. And what I just want to focus on are the tactics that they used to justify Renee Good's killing. First, I want to tell you what references I'll be using. So I will be using an old book from 1989, I believe. It's called Doublespeak from William Lutz. And then I'm going to be using, and I've brought this up to you guys in a very old video that I made, a master list of logical fallacies from Owen Williamson's. I want to read you a little paragraph from the Doublespeak book. Doublespeak is language that pretends to communicate, but it really doesn't. It is language that makes the bad seem good, the negative appear positive, the unpleasant appear attractive or at least tolerable. Doublespeak is language that avoids or shifts responsibility, language that is at variance with its real or purported meaning. It is language that conceals or prevents thought rather than extending thought. Doublespeak limits it. Now, the reason I'm reading that to you is because after listening to J.D. Vance, Leavitt, Kristi Noem, and Pam Bondi, and Megyn Kelly, and I really haven't listened to all of them speak at length, because what happens is I listen to them and they just, out of curiosity, when they pop up. Really, it's when they pop up. I am not dedicated to not one single one of those people. They just utilize so many of the tactics that are in these books that I felt like I should say something. And I'm not saying that the rest of us don't use them. And I'm not saying that people in support of Renee Good did not use any either. What I'm saying is that the people that I mentioned used them so egregiously that they should be mentioned. So let's start with J.D. Vance. In the White House press briefing following Renee Good's death, J.D. Vance immediately wanted us to empathize with the officer to get, I believe, a result of a mitigating circumstance. He did this by saying a number of things, but mostly that even though Renee Good was shot in her face, it was the officer who had been earlier dragged in some of these ICE raids and wounded in some kind of way, that this job put him at risk. And she added to that risk. Now, like I said, what this does is it not only shifts all of the responsibility of the situation to Renee Good, it also asks us as the listener to empathize with the officer. He then went on to say that we should be grateful to ICE because they are doing a job that entails getting bad people off the street. I guess that's what is supposed to connect us to a sense of shame. Shame that also gets us to shut up. If we're not grateful for the service that ICE is doing for us, then we somehow lack gratitude, and we need to just be quiet. And if we live with that shame, we will be quiet. And then he went on to use scapegoating. He was saying that this whole entire situation that happened with Renee Good was because she was part of a Watchdog group that he characterized as violent. This would make her the true aggressor of the situation. And then she would once again be the responsible one for what happened in that situation, even though she's the one who ended up with her face shot in. He is having her subsume the traits of the person who shot her in the face so he can create a new story. In reality, what he doesn't realize that he's done is that he did not create empathy, because we all know, or a lot of us should know, that if you are on a job, and it really doesn't matter what job it is, but if you are on a job and you have gotten injured in any kind of way, your job is supposed to step in then at that point, either through OSHA, through FMLA, or other ways, and get you counseling and get you therapy. And if you're suffering from PTSD, the burden would be on him and on ICE, not on Renee Good. If he's bringing his trauma to the job and she suffers at the hands of him because not of where she was and how she was attempting to leave, but because he was in fear of his life when he went to the scene of ICE raids because of what had previously happened to him, then that means he was not supposed to be out there at all. He was supposed to be on some sort of administrative leave. So nothing that J.D. Vance said helped his claim. Now on to Caroline Leavitt. Caroline Leavitt practices this deceptive way of speaking every time she steps to the podium. And I know that other people notice it, but I just want to say what it is, specifically what she did at the same White House press briefing that I believe J.D. Vance was at. She got up there, and then at about 2 minutes in, she said that, ICE agents are brave, they're this, they're that. It was something like that. And then she said that there was a 1,200% increase in assaults to law enforcement. And that was it. That's what she said. Now, according to this book that I've read, Doublespeak, what she is engaging in is called unfinished words. Okay? It says unfinished words are a kind of up-to claim in advertising. The claim that the battery lasts up to twice as long usually doesn't finish the comparison. Twice as long as what? So, when Caroline Leavitt says a 1,200 increase in assaults, that's supposed to get us to say, oh my gosh, look at that number. It's so big. We got to do something. This is terrible. But she never says from what. An increase in assaults from what? Okay? What this book says is since each of us fills in the claim differently, then an ad and a product can become all things to all people, and not a promise of a single thing. So it's more ambiguity. It's no promise. It's not decisive. It's open-ended. She does that on purpose, and she does it all the time. All the time. Dan Goldman was speaking to Kristi Noem, I believe it was this week, asking her if immigrants that have a pending application for asylum, if so, they should not be detained until that application is finished because they can't be touched. They can't be touched until it's decided if they get their citizenship or not. And they can't be prevented from getting their citizenship through illegal methods. That's the answer, or something similar to it. But she could not say that. Instead, she kept talking about Joe Biden. Pam Bondi does this all the time. She references Joe Biden's administration as being the reason as to why she couldn't do something today. Now, if there truly was a connection, then make it. But often there is no connection. Whisking people off the street today has nothing to do with what Joe Biden did a year and a half ago. It just doesn't. Because the pending application says that it doesn't. It means pending. That means we wait. That does not mean we go, shoot people in the face, ask questions later. That does not mean that we round people up and discard their application. Pam Bondi did this in, I forget where it was. She was talking to, I want to say it was about half a year ago. What was his name? Oh yeah, his name was Gary Peters. He was concerned about why ICE agents are wearing masks and not identifying themselves. I believe that that was a valid concern. Many people equate wearing masks to obviously something not good. And you see that all in our society. Hence Michael Myers, hence Jason, hence the Hamburglar, hence WWE wrestlers, hence the KKK. Hence we'd even be scared of V from Vendetta if he wasn't there to help us. Hence the Mask of Zorro. Hence the Phantom of the Opera. I can go on and on and on. No one usually equates masks and being roughed up with a good thing and not knowing who's doing it. Okay? Often people think that they're in a kidnapping situation, they're being taken hostage, that they're going to be killed, that they're going to be murdered or maimed. So I thought that that question was valid. Pam Bondi said she didn't know. She used the "I didn't know that was happening" defense. And she said that this was the first time she had heard that. And this is what these people are getting away with. They are getting away with doublespeak. They are getting away with unfinished words, diversion tactics, and the "I don't knows" that they claim that they did not like when the other administration was doing. That they're claiming right now that they don't like that Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton are doing. That is what they are doing. They're doing the exact same thing that they say they don't want other people doing. Megyn Kelly. I don't listen to Megyn Kelly a lot for many reasons. There was a little clip of her, or it was part of a bigger thing that I passed by, but I didn't listen to the whole thing because I found it so absurd. It was in the first minute. She said Renee Good, something to the sound of, if Renee Good got laid, then maybe she wouldn't have been out there protesting and she wouldn't have gotten shot. If Renee Good, was prettier, she said something like that. Those are non sequiturs, olfactory rhetoric. Why Megyn Kelly, who I think used to be an attorney, is using that type of speech, I don't know. Non sequitur. The fallacy of offering reasons or conclusions that have no logical connection to an argument. Whether Renee Good got laid in the morning or not, or whether she looks good or not, has no connection to why a man who has PTSD, supposedly, would shoot her in the face, unless the sight of her ugliness caused him to do so. olfactory rhetoric, a vicious animal-level fallacy of pathos in which opponents are marginalized, dehumanized, or hated primarily based on their supposed odor. They said that this was often used. Let's see. They use an example. I can smell a Jew a block away. The demonstrators are demanding something, but I'll only talk to them if first they go home and take a bath. I don't care what they say. Their breath stinks of garlic. These are all examples that people that use this vicious animal level fallacy of pathos. This is what the author says. This is what Megyn Kelly did when she was suggesting that if Renee Good was getting laid, perhaps if she was even more feminine, that what happened to her wouldn't have happened. I don't see the logic in that at all. The clear thing is that none of these tactics are going to work. Why? Because diversions come full circle. The unfinished statistic will eventually be finished. Shame can be overcome. All these tactics that they're using, they can work for a second on people that don't think that well. But after that second is up, after that shame is over, after we find the data, after we find something like forensics that indicate that the woman's tires were in the opposite direction of her killer, that proved her intention was to leave, and more importantly, that Jonathan Ross, if I believe that was his name, that his last utterance of calling her a bitch was satisfaction. Despite him having a so-called PTSD, he was satisfied in what he did to her. These two things don't demonstrate a man that was de-escalating the situation so he could preserve human life and still get his job done. That's not what those forensics and his own words indicate. They indicate a man that did not give a rat's ass about human life. He wanted to prove how strong he was, and he didn't like her. And he probably, yes, it's true, didn't like her wife talking shit to him. But none of those things mean that he should have shot that woman in the face. She was not hindering what they were trying to do. She was leaving. It's not against the law to leave. It's not against the law to protest in a peaceful way. No part of this narrative will ever be palatable. Not this one, not the situation with Keith. I think his name, Keith Porter in LA. It will never work. Their justifications, their doublespeak, their defense of this Jonathan Ross character. Because when law enforcement shows their teeth to instill fear, they're the ones that look like the dog. So it's really strange because you have this woman who's dead now that you said is part of a Watchdog group, and you've managed to take a story and turn her into a sort of Cujo while behaving like the mad dog yourself.